Ever looked out that little airplane window and wondered what's really happening beyond that quiet cabin? Why the flight attendants always make you lift your window shade, or why there's a strange little hole at the bottom of the glass? You're about to find out, and once you do, you'll never look at airplanes the same way again. So stay with me till the end, because every second in this video will change the way you think about flying. Imagine this: you're cruising 35,000 feet above the earth. The engines hum like a lullaby, the lights dim. People settle into their seats with their drinks and movies, thinking everything up here is calm and ordinary. But it isn't. Every inch of this plane hides tiny, genius designs that keep you alive without you ever noticing. Start with those little fins sticking out of the wings and tail. They look decorative, right? Not even close. They discharge static electricity so pilots can keep talking to air traffic control. Without them, lightning or charged air from clouds could mess with communication and navigation. And yes, lightning strikes happen more than most people realize. Airplanes get zapped regularly. You just never feel it because the current flows through the plane and exits through those static wicks, not through you. Now, look closely at your window next time you fly. See that minuscule pinhole at the bottom of the glass? That's not a flaw. It's one of the smallest but smartest safety features on board. It balances the pressure between panes, so the outer one takes the full force of cabin pressure. It also prevents the window from fogging up. Without it, the glass could eventually crack from stress. Funny how something so tiny holds back an entire atmosphere. And speaking of small but mighty, here's something most passengers never realize. Flight attendants carry flexible restraints, essentially zip-tie handcuffs, for when someone completely loses it. They're trained to use them too if a passenger gets violent. It's not just an inconvenience. It's a federal offense. The crew subdues, secures, and the plane diverts. Nobody wants that paperwork, but safety comes first. Now look at the engines. Notice the white spiral painted on the spinner cone. It's not a design choice. That's warns ground crew that the engine is spinning. When it blurs into a solid white circle, that's a visual signal. Stay back. The suction from an active jet intake can pull in luggage, hats, or worse. That little swirl prevents accidents. And while we're clearing the air, literally, let's talk about those white trails behind jets. They're called contrails, not chemtrails. They're just ice crystals forming from the hot exhaust mixing with the freezing air at high altitude. Simple physics: the higher and colder the sky, the longer those streaks linger. The idea that they're secret chemicals is pure fiction. What isn't fiction is the fact that sometimes there's an armed person sitting among you. Air marshals travel undercover, trained to handle emergencies in seconds. You'll never know who they are, and that's the point. They blend in perfectly, watching quietly while everyone else scrolls or sleeps. Here's another surprise: some of the planes flying today are older than the passengers on board. Certain Boeing models first took flight in the 1970s and are still in service. They're constantly inspected, upgraded, and overhauled. If you're curious, you can check your plane's tail number near the door or the back of the fuselage. Type it into an aircraft registry, and you'll see its entire history. Now, the black box, despite the name, it's actually bright orange, so it's easier to find in wreckage. And there are two of them. One records flight data, the other captures cockpit audio. They're built to survive crashes, extreme heat, and deep-sea pressure. Each one also sends a locator signal for 30 days. It's like the plane's indestructible memory. Look above the wings, near the emergency exits. Those small metal hooks aren't decoration. In a water landing, ropes attach to them so passengers can safely climb out along the wings to rescue rafts. Without those ropes, wet metal and panic don't mix well. Here's one most people never hear about: airplanes have horns, real ones. They're used on the ground to call maintenance or alert crew inside the cockpit. It's not a honk like a car, more like a loud, short buzz. You'll never hear it mid-flight, but on the tarmac, it's vital communication. If you've ever wondered how flight attendants walk so smoothly during turbulence, look just above your head. Those grooves along the ceiling panels, hidden handrails. They use them to move through the cabin without falling onto passengers. Clever, right? Now, your seat might have a secret or two as well. On some planes, the aisle seat has a hidden button underneath the armrest that lets you lift it for more space. Some middle seats are slightly wider than the window or aisle seats, and if you notice the wall curves a bit near the window, that's by design to give shoulder room. The engineers actually thought of your comfort just a little. Lighting plays tricks too. On newer jets like the Airbus A350, the cabin lighting system mimics sunrise and sunset to help reset your body clock. It's not just pretty mood lighting, it actually helps reduce jet lag. Now think about the landing. Those tires slam into the runway at 150 miles per hour. Each one is inflated to about 6 times the pressure of a car tire, yet they almost never burst. Why? Because they're made from conductive rubber that releases static electricity, and there are multiple smaller tires instead of one big one to spread the impact. Believe it or not, engineers once designed a passenger cabin that could detach from the rest of the plane in an emergency. It would parachute safely to the ground. The prototype worked, but the cost and complexity kept it out of production. Maybe someday it'll make a comeback. If you've ever heard faint thuds above your seat on a long flight, don't panic. That's not luggage shifting, it's probably a crew member resting in the hidden bunk area above the cabin. On flights that last more than 12 hours, pilots and attendants take turns napping in these secret compartments. While you're sleeping in economy, someone's catching their mandatory rest just a few feet above you. There's even a rule about what pilots eat. They never eat the same meal. If one gets food poisoning, the other can still fly. So if the captain's having chicken, the first officer's probably eating pasta. Here's one that might make you rethink your drink choice. The water used for coffee and tea comes from onboard tanks that aren't always cleaned as often as you'd hope. Some flight attendants avoid them entirely and stick to bottled water or canned drinks. Maybe next time you will too. And before you take off or land, when the crew asks you to raise your window shade, it's not for show. It helps you see outside in case of an emergency and lets rescue crews look into the cabin from outside. Every part of the airplane, from that tiny window hole to the orange flight recorder, is a product of decades of lessons, experiments, and even tragedies turned into improvements. Every click, light, and switch around you has a reason. The next time you step onto a plane, take a second to look around. Notice the details. Appreciate how much thought went into keeping you safe at 35,000 feet. And if you found yourself nodding or learning something new, maybe hit that subscribe button before your next flight. Because up here in the sky, every secret tells a story, and I'll be here to share them with you.